Hi, welcome back to Elizabeth Ann Reads. I'm Anne, and it has been a minute since I've been here. I took kind of an unintentional break. It started unintentional, and then I just got lazy. But the camera on my phone wasn't working for a couple weeks, and I tried to fix it, and ended up having to do a factory reset, which is fine. So now my camera's working, but then I was just lazy and didn't really feel like filming. But it is now a new month. It is June, and we are ready to go. I have content planned out for this month and for next month. So we're good to go for a while, as long as I, discipline myself to film. So here we go. Today we are doing my May wrap-up. I read 13 books in the month of May, which is pretty good, especially since I was feeling pretty slumpy at the beginning of May. I came off of 2 really strong reading months back in March and April. I think in those 2 months combined, I read over 50 books. And then I think at the beginning of May, I was just feeling a little burned out, a little too much. So I was kind of just reading at the beginning of May. Nothing was really catching me. Everything I read was just kind of meh. But I found some really good stuff at the end of the month. We are back on track. I'm excited about the books I'll be reading over the summer. And yeah, everything's going really well. So anyway, that was a long intro, but let's talk about the 13 books that I did read in the month of May. The first book I read was The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. This is a classic fantasy. I believe it was written in the 60s, I want to say. I'm not 100% sure on that. This book follows a young boy on his quest. There's dragons. I mean, it's very classic fantasy. It reads a lot like The Hobbit, just in style. It's kind of episodic. I had a hard time getting into this one. And I don't know if that's just because it is classic fantasy, and I've been very immersed in modern fantasy lately, and those read very, very differently, and neither one's negative. They're just very different. And so I don't know that I'm in such a Brandon Sanderson mode that I was having trouble getting into the more classic style fantasy. So I really struggled getting into Wizard of Earthsea. It's very short. It's under 200 pages, and it just felt like it took me forever to get through. It was the first book I finished in the month, and I think it was the 6th. I think I was a week into the month before I had finished it. And yeah, I did enjoy it. I didn't love it. However, I do feel like maybe my timing was off, or circumstances just weren't perfect. So I think I would at some point in the future like to give it another chance, and definitely give Le Guin more of a chance. But it wasn't bad. I just struggled with it. I think it landed on 3 stars for me, maybe 3.5. After that, I picked up a reread, The God of the Hive by Laurie R. King. This is part of her Mary Russell and Sherlock Holmes series, which is, like I said, a reread. I think this is like the 10th book in the series, and I've been trying to catch up because there's newer ones that I haven't read, so I've been rereading through the older ones so I can get to the newer ones, and I'm almost there. I think I have 1, maybe 2 left that I've read before. This, I can't tell you too much, because, it's pretty far along in the series, so I can't give you much plot, but like I said, this series follows Mary Russell, who is the young apprentice of a retired Sherlock Holmes. And this, interestingly, it's a direct sequel to the book that came before it in the series. So whereas the series are sequential, the books in the series are sequential, this one directly is like the second half of the book that comes before it. So I had read that one the month before and immediately wanted to pick up this one because it continues the same story. It's really good. It's one of my favorites in the series so far, at least I think. Just great mysteries, great characters, lots of twists, just lots of, really good stuff. I highly recommend this series if you enjoy historical mysteries. Then I picked up a middle grade, Henry and the Chalk Dragon by Jennifer Trafton. This follows Henry, and he draws a chalk dragon on his door, and the dragon comes to life, and of course wreaks havoc in his life and in his school. It follows him to school, and creates all kinds of problems at school, which of course only the kids can see the dragon. All the teachers and the adults think it's just the kids causing the problems. It was cute. It was, the illustrations are really charming in it. But it's not memorable at all for me. So again, it was just kind of a 3-star. It was cute, but it won't stick. After that, I picked up another middle grade, The Patchwork Girl of Oz. This is a bind-up of 3 books in the Oz series. I read just the first one, which was The Patchwork Girl of Oz, which is, I think, book 7 in the series. And this follows a young Munchkin boy and the Patchwork Girl. She was created out of an old patchwork quilt. She was stuffed and then brought to life by a magician. But something goes wrong, and so this Munchkin boy and the Patchwork Girl have to kind of go on a quest to find these ingredients for the magician so he can make another potion to fix what went wrong, basically. So it's just following their journey. And I really enjoyed this one. I think it may be my favorite in the series so far. I just think the Patchwork Girl is a lot of fun, and she's very spunky, and she's always getting into trouble, and she's just, I really, really enjoyed the characters in this one, and just the adventures that they had. Next, I read The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty. This is my second Liane Moriarty. I read Big Little Lies last year and loved it. It was one of my favorite books of the year, and I was really looking forward to picking up this one, which is the one a lot of people had recommended that I pick up after Big Little Lies. Fortunately, this was a big miss for me. I did not like this one at all. I found... The thing I liked about Big Little Lies is you have complicated people in complicated situations that are making difficult choices, but it felt like at the end they had progressed and made right choices, and that their character was in an upward direction. Whereas this one, I did not feel that. I found you've got kind of multiple storylines, again, happening, and I was irritated with the characters, I was irritated with the choices they were making, and I was mostly irritated at the end, when it felt like they had dealt with all the surface stuff, but everyone was still keeping secrets and lies underneath everything, and that really, really bothered me, and I didn't like it at all. I did not feel like there was resolution. There is resolution in the story, but it all felt very surface. It didn't feel like anything had actually been resolved or dealt with. And there were just still all kinds of undercurrents that I felt would still rise to the surface if this were real life and not a book. So I was not a fan. I'm not giving up on Liane Moriarty yet. I have a couple other of her books on my shelf that I want to give a try. But yeah, I was not a fan of The Husband's Secret. Then I picked up Northanger Abbey. I am on a journey to read all of Jane Austen. I only have one left. Persuasion is the only one I have left, and I'll probably get to that this summer. I'm not the hugest Jane Austen fan in the world. I don't dislike Jane Austen. I just don't like her as much as most people seem to. However, I did really enjoy this one. This is definitely one of my favorites. This follows Catherine Morland, and she's staying at a friend's estate. There's kind of mysterious things happening. There's mysterious people and conversations and places, rooms that are like sealed off, and she, being kind of young and impressionable and into Gothic novels, creates kind of this whole elaborate Gothic story around the things that are happening, and she kind of believes herself to be in a Gothic novel, more or less. And it's quite funny. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the humor, and I would read this one again, I think. Next, I picked up The Secrets of Winterhouse by Ben Gutterson. This is the sequel to Winterhouse, which I read back in, December? I don't even remember. And this continues on with the story that was started in Winterhouse. We follow a young girl, Elizabeth, and her friend, Freddie, and they're at this hotel, this amazing hotel, which has all kinds of amazing things, and it's the kind of place you want to go. And that's my favorite thing about these books, is the setting. I struggled with the first book a little bit in that I loved the story and I loved the characters, but it wasn't, the author kind of takes just this tiny paranormal twist on what I think should be just a solid mystery, and that I didn't like the paranormal twist. And I still don't in this book. However, I did enjoy this more than the first book in the series. I think the mysteries are great. I think the setting is incredible. He's just written this hotel that I want to go live at, with secret passages and hidden rooms and just all these amazing things in this quaint little town. And I enjoyed this one a lot. I am definitely going to go on and pick up the third one in the series. Next, I picked up my very first Sherlock Holmes, my first actual Sherlock Holmes. I've read lots of retellings or lots of kind of expansions on the Sherlock series, but I've never read until this actual Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. So I read A Study in Scarlet, which I enjoyed. The first half I was loving. The second half got kind of slow for me because I wasn't expecting it. Goes into a backstory of one of the characters, not Sherlock. And you spend the whole second half of the book almost with this backstory, and that surprised me, and so I didn't expect it to go on for so long. It moved really slow. So I struggled with that, mostly I think because I wasn't expecting. I was just expecting straight up Sherlock Holmes mystery solving. And those aspects I loved. It was just that I struggled with this other part. So I definitely want to continue on with the series. I don't think all the books are like that. But I did really enjoy just the writing style. It was easy to read. I thought it moved really quick in the first half. But even the second half I did enjoy. It just slowed down so much. But I definitely want to continue on and read more Sherlock. I also reread the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. This is a series of letters written from, it's fictional letters written from a head demon to his young, his trainee, basically. And so this young demon is out basically working on someone, trying to get them to screw up their lives. And so it's these letters, this kind of coaching from the head demon to this young demon whose name is what? Wormwood? I think it's Wormwood. And I've read this multiple times before. I think it's fantastic. I think it's just gives a really interesting insight into just the way our minds work and the way we look at things and the ways we can be tempted to things that would not be good. If you read this kind of stuff, you're probably already familiar with this book. If you don't, you're probably not interested. So I won't tell you too much about it, but I definitely recommend it if you like this kind of thing. Next up, I read This Was Our Pact by Ryan Andrews. This is a middle grade graphic novel. I really struggle with graphic novels. I don't read a lot of them, and I generally don't like the ones that I do read. But I've always known that out there somewhere is a graphic novel that's just for me. And this was it. This was fantastic. This was a 5-star read for me all the way. We follow a group of boys who the town that they live in has this summer solstice festival, and they put these lanterns in the river, and these boys decide one year, they're going to follow the lanterns down the river to see where they end up. And so they go off on this journey. You end up following just 2 of the boys, and it pretty quickly turns magical and fantastical. They meet a bear. They meet this magical cartographer. But I love the art. I don't know that you probably can't see real well, but I just thought the art was very charming and fitting for the story. I loved the friendship between the boys and just their camaraderie and the loyalty that they had to each other, or one especially had to the other. I just thought it was charming and whimsical, and I loved everything about it. I'm really looking forward to anything that Ryan Andrews publishes in the future. Towards the end of the month, I finished up a book that I had been working on the entire month, and that was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This, you can see, is a chunker. This is the UK edition, which means it's actually split into 2 volumes, so even though this is one book, it's in 2 volumes. But combined, it's over 1,000 pages of Brandon Sanderson goodness. This is the first book in the Stormlight Archive, and we follow lots of characters and lots of storylines, but primarily 3. We have Kaladin, who is a slave, Dalinar, who's a royal, I guess you would say, and then Shallan, who is a scholar. And you follow 3 different storylines, and they're all just fantastic characters. This book primarily follows Kaladin. You get kind of his backstory and a lot of him. And he is such an amazing, amazing character. He's such a good man and so noble, and so, even as a slave, just, love him so much. Shallan is, I know, a character a lot of people struggle with from what I read. I loved her a lot. Just because I see in her a struggle between who she really wants to be and who she's expected to be, who her family and who society expects her to be. And I always find that intriguing. And then Dalinar, I feel like I didn't connect with very much in this book till right at the end, but I'm looking forward to more of his story in the future for sure. This is a huge series, a huge world, so it's hard to kind of give much of a synopsis because I feel like so much of this book is just laying groundwork for future books. But needless to say, it was fantastic. I loved it. I will be picking up Words of Radiance soon, June or July. And yeah, it was great. Then I finished up a couple other things right at the end of the month. One was Fieldsgate by Erin Lynch. This is a novella, short story. I'm not even sure it qualifies as a novella. It's about 55 pages or so. So I guess short story would be more accurate. It is self-published, and I heard about it from Murphy Napier on her channel. And so I just went and got the Kindle edition and read through it. And I really liked it. It's a fantasy. We follow a girl, Lisa, who is, she, at the beginning of the story, she's just kind of becomes aware in this environment. And she's on a journey. She doesn't know where she is or where she's supposed to be or what she's supposed to be doing. And she just kind of goes through this world kind of torn between these two different voices that are talking to her and telling her what to do. It's very intriguing. It's very beautifully written. There are some grammatical errors, so if you find that annoying, I mean, we all find that annoying, but if you find that unreadable, then you should probably skip this one. But in general, I thought it was a really good story. The ending was not what I was expecting at all. And again, it's a book that I kind of want to go back and reread again. Now that I know the ending, I kind of want to do the whole thing again, which I may do this month. Who knows? But I would recommend it. I thought it was really interesting and really well done. And then the last thing I finished up in the month of May was Stepsister by Jennifer Donnelly. This is a Cinderella. It's not a retelling. It's a continuation of, I guess. This follows the stepsisters, specifically one, and it picks up right where Cinderella ends. So if you're familiar with the original Cinderella fairy tale, I won't go into specifics in case you haven't read it. I wouldn't want to spoil you. But if you have read the original Cinderella, then you know what the stepsisters do to, in an attempt to get the glass slipper to fit, so that they can win the prince. So that scene is right where this book picks up, with the stepsisters in the kitchen trying to get the glass slipper to fit, which is kind of a gruesome scene to start on. But it really set up the story really well. And then we follow specifically one sister, Isabel, in what happens in the aftermath of that. After it becomes clear that Cinderella is the princess and future queen, and then kind of what happens and how they're ostracized by the society, and then where their lives go from there, and the struggles and the challenges. And where I don't generally love a villain story, this book I thought did a really, really great job of addressing the choices we make and how we are shaped, not just by our own choices, but by the way we are treated by society. The ugly stepsisters in this book, in a way, kind of become the ugly stepsisters because they're constantly called the ugly stepsisters, and they're told that they're ugly, and they're told that they're mean, and they're told that they'll never amount to anything, and that they're not feminine, and they're not what a woman should be. And so, because they're constantly fed those things, they become those things. And I thought that was a really interesting take. And I really enjoyed following Isabel and her choices to start rebelling against what society was expecting of her. Because society was expecting ugliness and meanness from her. And to see her kind of start making different choices, because that didn't actually reflect who she wanted to be. And I thought it was really interesting and a really interesting take. There's some just phenomenal sentences in here and just some great, pretty profound thoughts. And I thought it was really, really good. It was close to 5 stars for me. I think I ended up rating it 4. But it's definitely something I'm going to pick up and reread again. And it's close to a 5 for me for sure. If you enjoy retellings or fairy tale-esque things, I would definitely pick it up. Also, I believe Jennifer Donnelly has a second one in the series, not in the series, but related, called Poisoned, that I think is coming out later this year, which also has a stunning cover. I'll try and put a picture in, because this cover's gorgeous. But then I'll try and put in a picture of Poisoned as well, because it kind of matches. And I will definitely be picking that one up. That's, I think, a Snow White retelling. I will definitely be picking up that one as well. But yeah, I definitely recommend Stepsister. So that is it. Those are the 13 books I read in the month of May. Thank you for being patient with me while I was missing in action. And yeah, thank you for taking the time to watch this video.